The longship's curved prow cut through morning mist as ravens circled overhead. Gunnulf Freyson stood at the helm, his weathered hands gripping the steering oar as his men pulled rhythmically at their oars. The English coast emerged through the fog like a promise: farms, livestock, and unguarded wealth. He raised his arm, and 40 warriors fell silent, their breath visible in the cold dawn air. "Remember," Gunnulf called, his voice carrying across the water, "we strike before the horns can sound. Take what we need: grain, livestock, silver. Kill only those who resist." His men nodded grimly. This was not a raid for glory or slaughter, but survival. 3 harsh winters had depleted their stores. Lindisfarne's monastery stood vulnerable on the coast, its monks unprepared for what would come with the tide. As they beached on the pebbled shore, Gunnulf felt the familiar weight settle on his shoulders. 10 years as chieftain of the Freyson clan had taught him that strength alone wasn't enough. Every decision carried the weight of his people's survival. Every raid risked blood feud. "The gods watch us today," muttered Thorstein, his father's old friend, nodding toward the circling ravens. "Odin's eyes are upon us." Gunnulf's jaw tightened. "Let him watch. My concern is feeding our people, not impressing the gods." He adjusted his mail shirt and drew his sword. "The Allfather has taken enough from me already." The memory of flames consuming his village 10 summers ago still haunted him. The Ravenstead clan had attacked while his warriors were at sea, burning their homes and slaughtering those who couldn't escape. Among the dead was Embla Ravsdottir, the woman he was to marry at summer's end. The irony of her family name, Raven's daughter, wasn't lost on him. Her body had never been found, but witnesses had seen her fall. "The monastery first," Gunnulf commanded, pushing aside old grief. "Then the village." His warriors fanned out across the shore. 10 years of leading raids had hardened something in Gunnulf that once was soft. The burden of chieftain left little room for mercy. After the Ravenstead clan's treachery, he had learned a bitter truth: trust no outsiders, show no weakness, and never forget those who wrong you. Blood called for blood. This was the way. The monastery fell quickly. Monks scattered like frightened birds as Gunnulf's men gathered sacks of grain and silver relics. They worked methodically, loading their spoils onto the ship. The village would be next, but something caught Gunnulf's eye that made him pause. A figure darted between stone buildings, too quick, too purposeful to be a frightened monk. The movement reminded him of a wolf, not prey. Drawing his sword, Gunnulf followed. Behind the monastery's kitchen, he found not a monk but a woman. She wore a rough woolen dress, her hair covered with a linen veil like the local women, but she held a short blade with the confidence of a warrior. Her back was to the wall, her stance ready for battle despite being clearly outnumbered. "You're not a nun," Gunnulf said in the local tongue, his Saxon rough but understandable. "And you're not the first Northman I've killed," she replied in perfect Norse. Gunnulf froze. That voice, it carried echoes from another life. She wore Saxon clothes, her face smudged with ash and dirt, but those eyes, green as spring leaves. He had dreamed of those eyes for 10 years. Embla? The name escaped his lips like a prayer. Her blade didn't waver, but something flickered across her face: recognition, then fear. "My name is Edith," she said in Saxon. "I serve this monastery." "You lie?" Gunnulf took a step forward. "Your Norse is too perfect." "And those eyes?" He switched to their native tongue. "I would know them anywhere, Embla Ravsdottir." "That woman died 10 years ago," she hissed, glancing around for escape. Before Gunnulf could respond, Thorstein appeared at his side. "The men are finished loading the ship. We should move to the village before reinforcements arrive." Gunnulf never took his eyes off the woman. Take her, he commanded. Two warriors moved forward. The woman, Embla, he was certain, fought with unexpected skill, wounding one before Thorstein disarmed her. Gunnulf watched her struggle, a storm of emotions raging behind his calm exterior. If this was truly Embla, returned from the dead, why was she here? Why had she not returned home? Bind her hands, but don't harm her, Gunnulf ordered. She comes with us. Her eyes met his, fierce with hatred. I'll die before I set foot on your ship, Gunnulf Freyson. She knew his name. Only Embla could look at him with such intimate hatred. Then it's fortunate you don't choose your fate, he replied. The Norns weave as they will. As they led her away, the monastery bells began to toll, warning the countryside. Gunnulf gave the order to return to the ships, the village raid abandoned. They had enough supplies, and now he had something far more valuable, a ghost from his past, somehow alive and disguised among his enemies. The voyage back to Ravensfjord was rough, autumn storms churning the seas. Through it all, the woman sat huddled near the mast, refusing food and speaking to no one. Gunnulf watched her from the stern, memories of another life flooding back with each glance. Embla Ravsdottir had been everything a Viking woman should be, a fierce, clever, skilled with both needle and blade. Their betrothal had united two powerful families until the blood feud shattered everything. After the raid that destroyed his village, Gunnulf had led his surviving warriors to slaughter half the Ravenstead clan in vengeance. The survivors fled, and for 10 years, hatred had sustained him through the rebuilding of his settlement, through the long winters and difficult harvests. Now, that hatred wavered like a flame in the wind. When they reached Ravensfjord, the settlement welcomed the returning warriors with torches and cheers. Children ran alongside the procession as they marched up from the shore. Gunnulf's hall stood on the highest point, overlooking the fjord and the cluster of wooden homes that had risen from ashes. He brought the woman to his hall, dismissing everyone but Thorstein and his sister Jida. Leave us, he told them finally, needing to face this ghost alone. When the door closed, he approached the woman who claimed to be Edith but whose eyes belonged to his lost love. 10 years, he said quietly. 10 years I believed you dead. I burned offerings for your passage to the afterlife. I carried your memory through blood and fire. She stood proud despite her bindings. I am not who you think I am. Remove your veil. No. Gunnulf stepped forward and gently pulled away the linen covering. Golden red hair tumbled down, the color of autumn leaves, Embla's hair. Her face was thinner, marked by years and hardship, but unmistakably hers. The dead have returned to haunt me, he whispered. The dead stay dead, Gunnulf. I am someone else now. He circled her slowly. When the Ravenstead village burned, witnesses saw you fall. I found your mother's body, your brother's, but never yours. Perhaps you didn't look hard enough, she said bitterly. Every day for a month we searched. Then I led our warriors against your father's settlement and repaid blood with blood. Her eyes flashed. And became the very monster you claimed my father was. Your father attacked without provocation, without honor. Women and children died while we were at sea. My father never ordered that raid, she shouted, her disguise finally cracking. He was as shocked as anyone when those warriors returned. It was Hrafn, my cousin, acting against my father's wishes. He wanted to prevent our marriage because he feared your family would gain control of our lands. Gunnulf stared at her, the foundations of his decade-long hatred suddenly uncertain. Your father denied responsibility when I came for him. I thought him a coward, unwilling to face the consequences. He spoke truth. But you wouldn't listen. Her voice broke. You killed him anyway. The weight of her words crushed against his chest. If what you say is true, why didn't you return? Why hide among Saxons? Embla looked away. What was there to return to? My family slaughtered, my home destroyed. You, transformed into a killer of my kin. Her shoulders straightened. The monks found me half dead on their shore after I fled. They showed me more mercy than my own people. They taught me their language, their ways. And their God. Their God asks for forgiveness, not blood. Gunnulf's laugh was hollow. A weak God for a weak people. Is it weakness to end the cycle of vengeance? Look what our ways have wrought, endless blood feuds, families destroyed, and for what? Her question hung in the air between them, unanswerable. You are still my betrothed, he said finally. Our agreement was never broken. That agreement died with our families. She met his gaze directly. I have built another life, Gunnulf. A false life. You are Embla Ravsdottir, daughter of Vikings, not some Saxon serving woman. That woman is gone. Gunnulf stepped closer. Yet here you stand, speaking the tongue of your ancestors, with fire in your eyes like the shield maidens of old. The Saxon veneer is thin, Embla. Something vulnerable flickered across her face before she masked it. What will you do with me now, chieftain? Add me to your thralls? Force me to honor a betrothal between dead families? You will stay as my guest until the first snow, he said. By then, you will remember who you truly are. Days passed into weeks as autumn painted the mountains in crimson and gold. Gunnulf gave Embla the freedom of the settlement but placed guards to ensure she couldn't flee. She moved through the village like a ghost, her Saxon dress exchanged for proper Norse attire that Jida had provided, but her manner remained distant. Children followed her, fascinated by her strange ways and the rumors that she had returned from hell itself. Women watched her suspiciously, wondering what claim this resurrected woman might make on their chieftain. Warriors measured her with careful eyes, remembering the blood feud that had nearly destroyed both clans. Gunnulf watched her from afar, unsure how to bridge the chasm between them. The certainties that had guided him for a decade were crumbling. If Embla spoke truth about her father's innocence, his vengeance had been unjust. The blood of her family stained his hands without cause. One evening, he found her sitting alone by the shore, watching the sunset paint the fjord waters crimson. You always loved this view, he said, settling beside her on a weathered log. I loved many things once, she replied. They sat in silence as daylight faded and stars appeared. My father respected yours, you know, Gunnulf said finally. That's why he sought the marriage alliance. He said Ravnir was a man of honor. Embla's voice was soft. He was. He taught me that our word is our bond, that honor isn't measured in wealth or conquests but in how we treat others. She glanced at Gunnulf. He welcomed your proposal because he believed you shared those values. The words cut deeper than any blade. I was different then. We all were. War changes people. She pulled her cloak tighter. So does loss. Is that why you stayed away? Because you believed I had become monstrous? Partly. She looked out toward the darkening water. But also because I had changed. The monks showed me another way to live, one where strength isn't measured by how many men you kill. Our people have always lived by the sword. And died by it too. Her eyes reflected the rising moon. Endless feuds, vengeance upon vengeance. Does it never tire you, Gunnulf? This weight of hatred. He had no answer that didn't feel hollow. Instead, he asked, were you happy there? Among the Saxons? A small smile touched her lips. I found purpose. Peace, sometimes. but never belonging. Her hand unconsciously moved to touch a small wooden cross hidden beneath her tunic. I dreamed in Norse even after years of speaking Saxon. The old gods visited my dreams despite my prayers to the White Christ. The blood of your ancestors calls to you, Gunnulf said. It cannot be silenced by foreign prayers. Perhaps. She stood, brushing sand from her dress. Or perhaps the past simply refuses to release me, even when I wish it would. As she walked away, Gunnulf remained by the shore, watching moonlight silver the waters. For 10 years, revenge had been his compass, hatred his strength. Now, with Embla returned, he felt unmoored, adrift between what was and what might be. The harvest season brought the clan together for communal work. In the fields, Gunnulf noticed Embla helping the women gather the last crops before winter. Her movements were sure, her knowledge of the old ways returning despite her years away. Children followed her, delighted by the Saxon songs she taught them while they worked. Later, in the barn where grain was being stored, he found her alone, measuring the harvest yield with the expertise of someone raised in the northern ways. You remember how to calculate the winter stores, he observed. She didn't look up. Some knowledge stays in the bones. Like how to speak Norse? How to carry yourself among our people. I was born here. These things can be hidden but not forgotten. She finally met his gaze. Why are you keeping me here, Gunnulf? What do you hope to achieve? I don't know, he admitted. When I first recognized you, I thought, perhaps the gods were offering a chance to reclaim what was lost. That innocent girl is gone. So is the young man who was to be my husband. She gestured toward the settlement. You've built a new life here, as I did in England. The past cannot be restored. No, he agreed, but perhaps something new can grow from its ashes. She studied him, searching for something in his face. You still believe in vengeance. In blood for blood. I have walked a different path. People can change, Embla. Can they? She stepped closer. If you learned tomorrow that another clan was planning to attack, what would you do? Strike first, he answered without hesitation. And if someone harmed your people? Hunt them down and make them pay. She nodded sadly. You see? The cycle continues. This is why I cannot stay. Before he could respond, a horn sounded from the watchtower, 3 long blasts signaling approaching ships. Unknown visitors. Gunnulf's hand went to his sword. Remain here, he ordered, striding toward the door. I'm coming with you, she said, following. At the shore, 3 longships approached under oars. Their shields displayed a familiar emblem, a black raven on red field. The Ravenstead clan, or what remained of it. Gunnulf's warriors assembled quickly, forming a defensive line along the beach. The lead ship ground against the shingle, and a tall figure leaped into the shallow water. Hrafn Ravsson, Embla's cousin, the man she claimed had started the original raid that sparked the feud. He had grown from the arrogant youth Gunnulf remembered into a hard-faced man with a jagged scar crossing his cheek. Gunnulf Freyson, Hrafn called, wading ashore with warriors flanking him. I come under truce flag to speak with you. Speak then, Gunnulf answered, his hand not leaving his sword hilt. But know that your kind are not welcome on these shores. Hrafn's eyes scanned the assembled villagers until they landed on Embla. His face went white as though seeing a drager, a walking corpse. By the gods, he whispered. Cousin? Is it truly you? Embla stepped forward. It is, Hrafn. We thought you dead these 10 years. Many did. Her voice carried across the beach. I've returned to find my cousin leads what remains of our clan. Hrafn looked between her and Gunnulf, confusion evident. "How are you here?" "As his captive. I was taken during a raid on Saxon shores," she answered carefully. "The chieftain recognized me." Murmurs spread through both groups of warriors. Gunnulf stepped forward. "State your purpose here, Hrafn Ravsson. Our clans have no peace between them." Hrafn straightened. "I've come to end the blood feud. 10 years of vengeance has nearly destroyed both our clans. It must stop before we all perish." Bold words from the man who started this feud, Gunnulf replied coldly. "Is that what you believe?" Hrafn's laugh was bitter. "I led no raid against your village. Embla says otherwise." All eyes turned to her as Hrafn's face darkened with anger. "You accuse me, cousin? After all these years?" "I know what I heard, Hrafn. You boasted to your friends the night before you left. You planned to prevent my marriage by showing the Freyson's weakness. I was a foolish youth who spoke big words, yes. But I never attacked your village." Hrafn's voice rose. "I sailed that day for trading, not raiding. When we returned and learned of the attack, my father was furious. He had no knowledge of any raid." "Lies," Gunnulf spat. "We found Ravenstead weapons among our dead. Because they were planted." Hrafn looked at Embla. "Tell him, cousin. Tell him about Orm Grimson and his ambitions." Embla's brow furrowed. "Orm?" "The merchant who often visited both our settlements." "The same. He wanted control of the trading routes between our clans. When your marriage was announced, he saw his opportunity slipping away." Hrafn's voice grew urgent. "He hired mercenaries to attack your village with our weapons. Then, knowing your temper, Gunnulf, he waited for your vengeance against us." "Why would I believe this convenient tale?" Gunnulf demanded. "Because I bring proof." Hrafn motioned, and his men brought forward a bound figure, an older man with a grey beard and expensive clothes. "Orm Grimson himself, captured last spring. After much persuasion, he confessed his scheme. Orm struggled against his bonds. They tortured me to say what they wanted." "Don't listen to them." Embla approached the merchant slowly. "Orm, you always brought me amber when you visited. You called me a little fire hare." The merchant wouldn't meet her eyes. "You knew both our fathers," she continued. "Broke bread at both their tables. Was your greed so great that our lives meant nothing?" Something in her gentle questioning broke through where Hrafn's threats had not. Orm's shoulders slumped. "The marriage would have united the clans," he admitted quietly. "I would have lost my position as middleman. The profits were too great to surrender." A terrible silence fell over the beach. 10 years of bloodshed, of vengeance and counter-vengeance, all because of one man's greed. Gunnulf felt a cold rage building in his chest, but before he could draw his sword, Embla spoke. "If what you say is true, then both our families were victims. My father died unjustly. So did Gunnulf's people." Her voice carried across the shore. "More blood won't undo what's been done." Hrafn nodded slowly. "That's why I've come. To end this feud before it consumes what remains of both our clans." Gunnulf looked at Embla, then at Hrafn, then at the bound merchant whose scheming had cost so many lives. The foundation of his hatred, the justification for a decade of vengeance, crumbled beneath him. "We will discuss terms," he said finally. "But first, there is the matter of judgment for Orm Grimson." That night, the Great Hall of Ravensfjord held members of both clans for the first time in a decade. Tension hung in the air like smoke as warriors who had tried to kill each other now sat at the same tables, sharing mead and eyeing each other warily. Embla moved between the groups, her unique position as daughter of one clan and betrothed of the other making her a natural bridge. Gunnulf watched her from his high seat, marveling at how quickly she had reclaimed her place among their people despite her years away. Ormgrimson had been judged by representatives of both clans and sentenced to death for his treachery. His execution would take place at dawn, witnessed by both Freyson and Ravenstead. As the night deepened, Hrafn approached Gunnulf's table. "My cousin seems to have found her place again, despite her years among Christians. The old ways run deep in her blood," Gunnulf replied. "As does her wisdom. Few could stand between our clans and speak truth to both." Hrafn studied him thoughtfully. "The betrothal agreement between your father and mine still stands, if both parties are willing. It would be a powerful symbol of our new peace." "That is for Embla to decide," Gunnulf said. "She has changed, as have I. What was arranged in another lifetime may not be her wish now." "You surprise me, Freyson. I expected to find the same vengeance-driven youth who slaughtered half my kin." "That man is still here," Gunnulf warned. "But perhaps he has learned that some feuds cost more than they're worth." Later, as the celebrations continued, Gunnulf found Embla standing in the shadows near the door, watching the proceedings with a guarded expression. "You're not joining the feast?" he asked. "I'm observing." Her smile was faint. How quickly men who were sworn enemies can become drinking companions when a common enemy is found. Orm's treachery gives them something to unite against. And when he's dead tomorrow? What then? Gunnulf considered her question. Then we must find other reasons to maintain peace. He paused. Hrafn mentioned our betrothal agreement. Her eyes met his. Did he? He suggested it would seal the peace between our clans. Political marriages rarely lead to happiness, she said carefully. Is that why you agreed to marry me before? Politics. The question hung between them, unexpectedly intimate. Embla looked away. No, she admitted. Before the raid, before everything changed. I had begun to care for you, Gunnulf. You were different then, quick to laugh, slow to anger. You saw me as an equal, not just a prize to be claimed. And now? Now I see a man consumed by vengeance for 10 years. A leader, yes, but one whose first instinct is to strike rather than understand. She turned back to him. Could such a man make room in his heart for something besides retribution? The question cut to the core of him. I don't know, he answered honestly. But I would try, for the right reason. Their conversation was interrupted as Thorstein approached, his expression grave. Chieftain, the guards report movement in the forest. Many torches, approaching from the north. Gunnulf's hand went to his sword. How many? At least 3 ship crews, maybe more. Hrafn had joined them, overhearing. My people brought only 3 ships. We left the rest of our warriors at home. Then we have uninvited guests, Gunnulf said grimly. Warn the men, quietly. We don't want to start a panic. As warriors discreetly gathered their weapons, Embla caught Gunnulf's arm. Wait. Let me see who approaches before you sound the alarm. It may not be an attack. It's too dangerous. I can move unseen better than your warriors. And if it's Saxons, I can understand their plans. Gunnulf hesitated, then nodded. Take Thorstein with you. At the first sign of danger, return immediately. They slipped away as the feast continued, the majority of both clans unaware of the potential threat. Gunnulf positioned his warriors strategically while maintaining a calm appearance. Hrafn did the same with his men. If this is another merchant scheme to reignite our feud, they'll find us not so easily manipulated this time, Hrafn muttered. For once, we agree, Gunnulf replied. The minutes stretched like hours until finally Embla returned, her face flushed from running. It's the survivors of the Ravenstead clan, she reported. The rest of your people, she added, looking at Hrafn. Led by your sister Runa. They grew worried when you didn't return as scheduled and followed your path. Relief washed through the hall, but Hrafn looked troubled. Runa was supposed to remain behind. If they're all here, our settlement is undefended. Then we must make room for them tonight, Gunnulf decided. Tomorrow, we'll sort out what to do. As the hall doors opened to admit more guests, Embla touched Gunnulf's arm. You chose caution over immediate attack. That's a beginning. Her words warned something long cold within him. Dawn broke clear and cold as both clans gathered on a headland overlooking the fjord. Orm Grimson stood bound between them, his final judgment at hand. As chieftain, Gunnulf addressed the assembled crowd. 10 years ago, this man's greed and treachery set our clans against each other. Fathers, mothers, brothers, sisters, many lie in their graves because of his scheme. His voice carried on the wind. Today, we end not only his life but the feud that has stained our hands with each other's blood. Embla stood beside him, her presence symbolic of what had been lost and what might yet be reclaimed. Hrafn stood opposite, representing the Ravenstead survivors. Before justice is done, Gunnulf continued, I must speak words I never thought to utter. He turned to face the Ravenstead clan. I was wrong to bring vengeance upon your settlement without seeking the full truth. Ravnir died by my hand unjustly. For this, I offer Wergild and my sincere regret. Murmurs ran through both clans. A chieftain admitting error was rare indeed. Hrafn stepped forward. And I regret my youthful boasting that lent credence to the lie. Had I been wiser, perhaps suspicion would have fallen where it belonged. He gestured toward Orm. The merchant was brought forward, his face ashen with fear. Have you final words? Gunnulf asked him. Orm looked between the clans, seeking sympathy and finding none. I sought only profit, he said finally. I never imagined the bloodshed would continue for years. A man must foresee the consequences of his actions, Gunnulf replied coldly. As chieftain of the wronged clan, the right of execution falls to me. But today, we forge a new path. He turned to Embla. You lost more than any of us. Your family, your home, your place among your people. The right should be yours. Embla looked startled. You would have me take a life. Justice demands it, Hrafn agreed. By our laws, the nearest kin of the wronged should wield the blade. All eyes turned to her as she stood silent, the weight of their expectations heavy on her shoulders. Finally, she stepped forward and took the offered sword from Gunnulf's hands. She approached Orm, who fell to his knees, trembling. Please, mercy, he begged. The Christian God teaches forgiveness. Yes, Embla said quietly. He does. She raised the sword, its edge catching the morning light. But I stand now in the lands of my ancestors, where justice must be served. The blade flashed down, but stopped a hair's breadth from Orm's neck. Gasps rippled through the crowd. However, she continued, her voice carrying across the headland, both the White Christ and the old gods know that more death won't restore what was lost. She lowered the sword. I will not kill you, Orm Grimson. Instead, you will live out your days as a thrall, serving both clans as recompense for the lives you destroyed. Your wealth will be divided among the families who lost loved ones. She turned to face the assembled Vikings. For 10 years, blood has answered blood between our people. Where has it led us? To decimated clans, to orphan children, to bitterness that eats at the soul like poison. Her gaze found Gunnulf's. Sometimes the greatest courage is not in taking a life, but in choosing a different path. Silence fell over the headland. Then Gunnulf stepped forward. Embla Ravsdottir has spoken wisely. Does any man or woman here challenge her judgment? No one spoke. Even Hrafn, after a moment's consideration, nodded his acceptance. Then it is decided, Gunnulf declared. Ormgrimson will live in servitude. And our clans will forge a new beginning, not in blood but in alliance. As the crowd dispersed, Embla handed the sword back to Gunnulf. You're not angry that I didn't kill him? Once, I would have been, he admitted. But I begin to see wisdom in breaking old patterns. He studied her face in the morning light. You've changed me, Embla. Made me question certainties I've lived by for years. People can change, she said, echoing his earlier words. Even stubborn Viking chieftains. The days that followed brought rapid changes to Ravensfjord. With both clans temporarily sheltering together, new arrangements had to be made. Some Ravenstead families would remain through winter, others would return with Hrafn to their settlement. Trade agreements were formalized, defensive alliances established. Through it all, Embla moved between both groups, her unique perspective bridging differences. Her years among Saxons had given her insights that helped resolve conflicts between the clans. Even her Christian teachings, once whispered about suspiciously, proved valuable in proposing compromises where Viking pride might have led to renewed hostilities. Gunnulf found himself seeking her counsel more frequently. Each conversation revealed another layer of the woman she had become, thoughtful where he was impulsive, measured where he was absolute. Yet beneath her calm exterior, he glimpsed flashes of the fierce Viking maiden he had once known. One evening, as the first snow dusted the settlement, he found her at the shore again, watching the sky darken over the fjord. The first snow has come, he said, settling beside her. You remember what I promised when you first arrived? That I could choose my path once winter came. She nodded. I remember. And have you decided? Will you return to England? Stay with your kinsman in the Ravenstead settlement? Or? He hesitated. Or remain here? She was quiet for so long that Gunnulf thought she might not answer. Finally, she turned to him, snowflakes catching in her hair like tiny stars. When I lived among the Saxons, I dreamed of this fjord, she said softly. Of these mountains, this sky. Even as I embraced their ways, something in me remained unconquered, untamed. She touched the small wooden cross she still wore. I cannot abandon what I've learned there, the person I've become. But neither can I deny my true nature. And what is that nature, Embla Ravsdottir? I am a daughter of the North, she said simply. Born under these stars, shaped by this land. The Christian God may hold part of my heart now, but these waters and mountains hold my soul. Hope kindled in Gunnulf's chest. Then you'll stay. I will stay, she confirmed. But not because of any old agreement between our fathers. Not to seal an alliance between clans. If I stay, Gunnulf Freyson, it must be for its own sake. He moved closer, snowflakes melting on his face. And what would that reason be? The same reason I once agreed to our marriage. Because I glimpse in you the man I once knew, and perhaps someone new as well. Someone who can learn, who can change. Someone who might build rather than destroy. Her eyes searched his. Is that man still there? Gunnulf took her hand, calloused palm against calloused palm. He's learning to be. With your help. I offer no guarantees, she warned. The path ahead won't be easy. I'm not the obedient Viking bride I might once have been. I would not want that woman, he replied. I want you, with all your Saxon learning, your Christian compassion, your stubborn questions that force me to think beyond old ways. Snow fell more heavily around them, the world quieting under its blanket. Then perhaps, Embla said, her fingers tightening around his, we can build something new from the ruins of the old. Not a joining of clans as our fathers planned, but a union of equals who choose each other freely. Gunnulf drew her closer. In the spring, when the ice breaks. A handfasting ceremony to show both our peoples a new beginning. Her smile was like sunrise after the longest night. Yes. But until then, we have winter to learn each other anew. Their lips met as snow swirled around them, not as chieftain and captive, not as representatives of feuding clans, but as two people choosing a path forward together. Above them, ravens circled against the darkening sky, not omens of battle to come, but witnesses to a cycle broken, a new story beginning. In the great hall that night, both clans gathered to hear their announcement. Standing together before the fire, Gunnulf and Embla declared their intention to marry when spring returned to the fjord. Warriors who had once sought each other's blood raised horns in toast to their union. The gods work in strange ways, Thorstein observed, watching the celebration. 10 years of hatred undone by a woman we thought dead. Not undone, Jida corrected him. Transformed. My brother carries the same strength, but now it builds walls instead of breaking them down. As the winter deepened, Ravensfjord changed too. Embla taught Saxon farming techniques that promised better yields. Gunnulf incorporated ideas from both clans to strengthen their defenses. Together, they created something neither had imagined possible, a community forged not through conquest but cooperation. When spring finally arrived, melting the ice from the fjord, the handfasting ceremony united more than two people. Standing before both clans, Embla wore a gown that combined Viking tradition with elements of her Saxon life. Gunnulf, the warrior chieftain who had once lived for vengeance, spoke vows of protection and partnership rather than possession. As they bound their hands together with cord, Embla looked into the eyes of the man she had once fled, now the man she chose freely. From death to life, she said softly. From hatred to love. The Norns weave strange patterns indeed. Our threads are woven together now, Gunnulf replied. Whatever comes, we face it side by side. Around them, members of both clans joined hands, a blood feud transformed into kinship. Ravens circled overhead, no longer harbingers of battle but witnesses to something unprecedented, a new kind of strength growing from the ashes of the old ways.